Hi, I'm Radhika Meenakshi, and it's really great to be facilitating this webinar, Inculcating an Entrepreneurial Mindset today for you, especially my fraternity friends. Well, at the outset, I would like to start my talk by referring to a book, The Startup of You. And this is going to be the crux of what I'm going to speak to you today. This book was written by Reid Hoffman, the co-founder of LinkedIn and Casnocha. Now, this book is based on the premise that all individuals need to manage their lives and career, just like how an entrepreneur would do his startup or business. Now, this premise is what we are going to also talk about. I would just like to take some small excerpts from this book and talk to you about it and keep it to you on your record. That this book argues that we can no longer expect to find a job. Instead, we must make our jobs. Another thing that Hoffman also says is we need to find a way to add value in a way no one else can. For entrepreneurs, it's differentiate or die. Earlier, this was only for entrepreneurs. But now, this goes for all of us. He also says all humans are entrepreneurs, not because they should start companies, but because the will to create is encoded in human DNA. Now, this is what is going to be the crux of my talk, the will to create. I would also like to quote, before I start my entire talk, about the critical attributes for success as given by Brannick in 1995. He says the numerical ability contributes to success is only 1%. Verbal ability is about 3%. Professional qualifications, especially in marketing, is about 5%. Computer literacy about 5%. Imagination, 17%. That's where the double digits start. Observation powers, 18%. Personal judgment, 24%. And the ability to get on with others, 27%. My friends, I would like you to look at the last four: imagination, observational powers, personal judgment, ability to get on with others. And these are the 4 points which actually go to make the entrepreneurial mindset. But before we go further, let us just clarify again what we mean by entrepreneurship. If you look at the older definitions of entrepreneurship, especially I like Bob Rees's definition, which he says, entrepreneurship is the pursuit of an opportunity without regard to resources currently controlled, which means you go about as an entrepreneur, look out for some opportunity. Is there a pain point? Do I find an opportunity in it? And then try and see what is the best possible solution. And looking at that best possible solution, without regard, you just take calculated risk on your resources and you start building for the best. Now that is what is entrepreneurship according to Bob Rees. You can also say it thrives on market inefficiencies by creating, capturing and delivering new definitions of value. Now this is where I would like to dwell upon a little bit more. Newer definitions of value, creating, the will to create, remember that's the crux, and entrepreneurship is creating newer definitions of value. Let's take, there are umpteen number of examples in the market. For example, if you look at assuaging hunger, earlier we talked about assuaging hunger and you say if you are hungry you need to eat food. But Maggie came along and said, oh, you can get to eat this food in just 2 minutes. And you wanted to kill mosquitoes and you say, mosquito, kill the mosquitoes. You put medicines, you put pesticides, you do all sorts of things, net everything. But the new one that comes up, the new value that's come up, it says, okay guys, you don't have to kill mosquitoes, just drive them away with a frequency with an app in your Android phone. Now you look at our own webinar today, right? Traditionally academic seminars are always in a big forum and people used to talk and all that. The basic value is to impart knowledge. Today we have a newer way of doing it and we are reaching across so many people through the webinar. So if you look at any of such thing in the market, you'll find even if there is a small inefficiency, people will come there, entrepreneurs will come there, spot an opportunity and do it. So whether it is you're booking for bus through the red bus, or if you're looking at Google Guru giving us all the information at a click of a button, You have many such newer things that have always been giving value for us. So entrepreneurship creates and defines and captures and gives us new value. But by far, the most important definition which I think that has come in 1999 by Timmons is really what describes an entrepreneurial mindset. Entrepreneurship is a way of thinking, reasoning, and acting that is opportunity obsessed, holistic in approach, and leadership balance. Now, three things that he talks about is you are obsessed about the way you approach at the opportunity. You take a holistic approach. Altogether, you consider everything possible. And there is a leadership balance because you're really talking about a team here. Now, why then do we need an entrepreneurial mindset? There's Hoffman who's telling that all of us have got it in our DNA, the will to create, and therefore, by and large, we are all entrepreneurs by birth. Now, how do we then inculcate this mindset? Why do we need this mindset? Dynamically growing, complex global challenges. Today, we are having so many global challenges. The world is changing dynamically, whether it is a climate change or energy crisis. All these are sparking off newer needs, newer problems, and of course, newer opportunities to be creative. Second thing is, of course, requirements to create more job creators because there's a rising unemployment in the country. And if you're looking at companies today, no longer they want the yes boss employees. They're all looking for proactive employees who'd come and say, boss, here's the problem and here are a couple of solutions. Do that something which is good. You know, which do you think is better or how do we go about it? And that is what those type of the people are what companies are today looking at. The attention of the governments across the world today focuses on creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. In fact, they call this the decade of innovation. So we need to think a lot of creatively. We need to instill a lot of creativity across amongst us. And the most important thing that trending today is that companies are today recruiting more for skills and talents rather than knowledge. Most of the placement officers today talk a lot about what are the skills that you have acquired while you're in college or what are the talents that you have, how have you displayed your talent during your college days, rather than the knowledge which they definitely do. I'm not saying it is not needed, but that also is there, but they go more for skills and talents. They're given it an equally good weightage. And of course, India, especially in our country, we have a huge, energetic, impatient bank of young people who demand that they get big opportunities within our new vibrant economy. And so we need to cater to these growing demand of young people who are looking out for great opportunities. How do we make them see the opportunity and seize the opportunity that's in front of them? And of course, the need today is much more because the government of India, especially the Modi government, is already increasingly emphasizing the need for an entrepreneurial generation. We have the entrepreneurial minister, the entrepreneurship policy that's going to come, and of course the 10,000 crores that have already been set aside for startups. So with all these growing things, I think there is a huge need for an entrepreneurial mindset. But is it possible to build an entrepreneurial mindset? The answer is a big yes. How do you go about doing it? Well, for that, the first thing you need to know is to gather knowledge. What are entrepreneurial skills? What are these entrepreneurial skills? First, let us gather knowledge about them. Then, go through these skills and identify what are your strengths and what are your weak areas in these. Then, consciously set aside to build your weak skills and start enhancing and strengthening your strength skills much more. And when you're ready, look and constantly be aware of what's happening in your surroundings, identify the opportunity, and apply these skills to win. Well, this is easily said than done, but let us see how we can actually go about the nitty-gritties, the behavioral changes, the attitudinal changes. The first thing that we need to do before we build an entrepreneurial mindset is to get the right attitude. The attitude of wanting and willing to be entrepreneurial in your thinking. Now, this should come as a passionate. You should be passionate about wanting to do something. You must be passionate about and willing to create. And then you should also be very ready to, have the attitude that if somebody criticizes you, I think you should be able to swallow it and accept it and look at what can you do about it. Evaluate yourself harshly. Where are you now? What is your current status? Take stock. Then you decide what you want to be. And then when you're drawing the map from where you are to where you want to go, please make sure you set it in terms of an action plan, a time frame. So also get an attitude to be timely, action-oriented, ready to face criticism, boldly face the challenges. In fact, I think the right attitude for an excellent entrepreneurial mindset is the last one. That's why I wrote it in bold. Willing to learn, unlearn, and learn again. Learn, unlearn, learn. If you have this, my dear friends, you're on. You have the entrepreneurial mindset. And you know, Hoffman has beautifully put it in the book that I told you, The Startup in You, is remember that you're always in a beta mode. You know, remember that you're always in a beta mode. You're not the final product. You're always in a beta. There's always room. And that's why I always tell to all my, wherever I go, remember, it is always possible to improve the best. Don't think you're the best. There's always somebody who can always say you're the best. So if you have this type of a right attitude, then you're on to start building your entrepreneurial mindset. Now this is for my faculty friends here. Fine. Now you are on to train your students to get into an entrepreneurial mindset. But remember, along with the attitude, it also calls for a very highly unconventional ways of teaching and learning methodologies that educational institutes and their faculty must adopt in order to enable entrepreneurial thinking to work in your campus. So the first thing that you have to think is, are you ready for it? Is your college ready for it? Are your students ready for it? Now these are some of the questions that you need to ask yourself before you start systematically training to inculcate entrepreneurial mindset. So what is training to entrepreneurial thinking? Well, it's very simple. Entrepreneurial thinking is training the student's mind to think proactively, creatively, and economically to finding solutions to problems. Well, ultimately, whatever you study, wherever you are, you're always finding solutions to problems. Whether you're working, you're an entrepreneur, or you're just an housewife. Ultimately, you're always trying to solve and find solutions to various problems. Now, if your mind can think proactively beforehand itself, that you can foresee, plan that these are some of the challenges that you can accept, and proactively try to mitigate them by setting up certain plans, and if this happens, I can do this, and this happens, I will do this types, and making sure that you create the environment very conducive for it to happen, and that is being proactive. And creatively think of newer solutions, and we know that as Indian minds we are such jugaads, right? We can always think of how to beat. Believe me, the day one lockdown, we have thousands of people already telling you how to do it, how to get over it, how to bypass it. So we have a lot of creativity there. We need to actually look at that. And economically means within our limited means to find solutions to these problems. Now, if you do that, and I think e-thinking will definitely help you to become great intrapreneurs. Now, intrapreneurs are people who are working in organizations who think with an entrepreneurial mind. So though you're working in a big institution or a small institution or working for somebody, you're already thinking very independently, you're thinking very creatively, and you already have an entrepreneurial mindset. Now that is called as an intrapreneur. Today all companies across the world and across the globe want intrapreneurs, just not S-boss employees. So now if you train your students to entrepreneurially think, then they will become great intrapreneurs, and this will be great for your placements. Or on the other hand, in doing and inculcating this entrepreneurial mindset, you trigger them to become entrepreneurs and become job creators. Wow, I think that's a great thing, because students will then create jobs for thousands of people outside, and of course contribute to the nation's wealth. Now, before we do all this, as faculties, there's a lot of checklists. Now, this is where I know you're going to ask me a whole lot of questions. To develop entrepreneurial thinking, the first things that faculties need to have is to be updated yourself. Now, this is very much very important. We should be aware of ourselves. We should be aware and be updated about the industry that we are in. More often than not, many of us tend to, after 2-3, in the beginning we're all very excited, and after a couple of years, and this, believe me, is after having 24 years of experience in teaching, we need to be updated about the industry, or we tend to actually sink into a routine which we shouldn't, especially when the syllabus is not updated so regularly. I think there is a tendency for us to be complacent about what we have, the notes we have created and all that. So that's one thing we have to be aware of yourself and update our notes, and with all the latest in the industry. Another important thing that I feel is very important is, as a faculty, you need to be highly networked. Now, unless you network, you cannot provide the linkage that is required for your class. For example, unless you are networked with the people in the industry, you cannot call these people to come and talk in your class. For example, suppose if you have networked, and amongst your network you have a friend who's making inverter batteries, etc. what, and then you have a class in thing for batteries, you can call your friend to come and talk. Now, you need to therefore consciously network. And this will help you, because any small you network, and any of these through your network you can link. Another important thing is you have to consciously, you have to make sure you develop live examples, projects or problems from the industry and incorporate it in your class. So you start your class with examples. Start your class with some problem in the industry that is written in the paper and ask them for solutions. So these are the ways that you can, when you make these classes very interesting, the students also realize that you're not just a textbook man, and you just, when the bell rings, that you'll come and talk, rather that you're going to give them something new, something exciting to look forward to. Most important is that definitely in your course as faculties, we get students to go for internships or go for summer internships, etc. Maybe it is not required, or not a mandate from your college authorities, but I think it's definitely needed that you start fraternizing with the companies where your students, that group of students who are linked to you as a mentor, go, and make sure you make a point to visit at least 1 or 2 of these offices and get linked with those people. This will help you because you have a link through your student, and you will also get linked to these companies. It's a small thing, but by and large, when you do it without you realizing, your networking will highly improve and your linkages will start building. Also, get involved in the college entrepreneurial activities. The college may have some e-campus or some e-talks, etc. So some of these activities, college campus companies running, if you have, you can contribute to it. So these are the things that you can do. You can invite entrepreneurs in your field to address your class alone. See, sometimes to avoid big noise, if you're going to call and you want the seminar room and you want this and you want the crowd to come and then you want this, it's going to take a whole lot of time. So that's why I feel, instead of calling, don't think calling only big shots, who require all these paraphernalia need to be called. You can call small scale industrialists who are in that area, and call them only for your class and quietly finish it during your class hour in the classroom. I think that will be very, very focused, and you should have about 2-3 like this in your classes. Now this will actually take away the mundane routine of only you talking. Second, it gives you directly from the horse's mouth, and these guys are very happy to share their experience with you. So I think this is by and large one of the largest things that you can do to inculcate entrepreneurial mindset. Also, your teaching has to change a bit. You need to blend your teaching. Gone are the days where, you just go and talk and come. I think today all of us are, and I know many of us are using the PowerPoint and other things, but I think we now need to move not only from PowerPoints, but we also need to go to what is called as blended learning. Now, blended learning involves that you start using videos, you start giving handouts, you start giving links where students actually can go and go through the links, read and think. I know many of you are saying that, oh, catch the students doing it, but believe me, when it is very market oriented and you know it is for their business, or you know that it's going to help them in real life, I think they would definitely look at it and give them some readings to actually be recommended. So blended learning is actually where you teach and you also use other people's teaching on videos, webinar, lectures, all these things to be put during your class hours. Well, I would also like to talk to you about some small tips as to how to instill e-thinking among your students. First of all, encourage them to ask pertinent questions. You know, as faculties, one of the things that we always get is them asking a lot of questions, and it makes the classes very interesting. But then when they ask you certain questions, also be courageous to admit that you have lack of information on that and that you'll get back to them once that information comes. Also be, once when you do this, it will also inform the students in a small way and in a really big way, another thing, in a small way that, oh, the teacher can also, have lack of information. But when you give it in large next day, it also brings in a bigger picture in the student's mind to say, hey, it's not wrong to be courageous and accept when we don't know something. And it's also not wrong to actually go back, pick some information on it and then understand it. So a small thing by you could actually send out waves to all these students out there. Also, how about also give them some problem and leave it hanging in the air, unfinished. Now, this will develop a sense of curiosity in the students because they'll say, so what happened? What happened afterwards, And you tell them, okay, now go see or check out in this link, and tell me what can happen. What is the principle behind this? Or some things like that. So when you leave such unfinished things, they'll say, sir, didn't finish it, But out of maybe 40, 50 thousands of, out of your 50 students, maybe not all of them will go to the link. But even if one goes to the link and comes back to you the next day, make sure you praise him and tell him so that the other's curiosity is also satisfied. Now, heightens the interest to find new solutions. Now, for this, you need to conduct a lot of competitions. You can tell them, okay, this is the value. What are the other ways you can create this value? And make them see, okay, now if you do this, can you imagine how many people will benefit? And also say, okay, the best solution will get a small and create a competition. We'll get something off, or get everybody to say salute, or something interesting, or get a Cadbury's chocolate, things like that. Now, another important thing is you should be willing to examine the beliefs, assumptions, and opinions and weigh them carefully against facts. Now, the students may come up with some beliefs, some assumptions, and opinions, and you need to be very thorough with your facts. Now, my friends, that really, really involves that we do a lot of preparations, preparing for a class, preparing for blended learning ways, preparing to face these questions. We all do, and innately we always have this thing that we can answer all these questions. But I think we need to also tell the students, how do you take an assumption? How do you weigh it against the fact? And how do you give back the feedback? Now that when you do, will also teach your students that yes, when you come across something, you need to actually question it. Let's not blindly accept it. Now that is very important. Also, listen and provide feedback. Now this feedback session needs to be done in your class because this will help the students understand that feedback is something very, very important. And when they go out to the world, it is a feedback that actually starts changing the dynamic situations and the information and the way they present the information. Now, always say when they come up with some belief, the assumptions, or they throw out some figures, or when they talk to you, just ask them evidence. Be relentless in asking them evidence. When you start seeking evidence and asking them for evidence, or what is the proof? What is the source? Where have you given the statistics? Where is the source? Can I check the source? When we start being very relentless in seeking evidence for all their assumptions, how do you know? How can you assume? Why you are assuming? Such sort of questions. Of course, they'll get irritated with you, but then they will also understand at the end of it that, these are the questions that's making them work harder, and when they come up with the final product, they'll be absolutely delighted. Believe me, the pain to change is always the path to change is always very painful, but once it happens, it's beautiful. Okay, now also another important thing that we need to also think about is that can we make our students flexible? That is where I talked to you about learn, unlearn, learn, right? The very important fact that when you find some facts, can you change your course? Can you become flexible? Can you adapt? Now these are the things that you need to actually help your students to grapple with and understand. Well, if you want a little more on this, you can see the source where I've taken it from. It's from Ferret in 1997, and Attributes of a Critical Thinker. And these are absolutely things that you need to involve and make your students a critical thinker, which is very an absolute necessity for entrepreneurial mindset. Fine, it's all great to talk about this, but let's keep some caution in mind. The student learning, you may give the water, but how do you expect them unless the learning is complete? So the student learning, I know and I agree, and we all can agree, that depends on a whole lot of variables. It could be the personality of the student, the intelligence of the student, the educational qualification, the experiences, the culture, the sensitivity, and the cognitive preferences. And to engage, there will be so many with different kinds, but to engage all learners in a best way is to give them various methods in which these information can be communicated. And therefore, and also we have to remember that not all people learn the same way. There are different learning styles. Some prefer audio, some prefer visual, some prefer kinesthetic, where they try to do it and learn. Well, what about the learning orientation comes with a lot of entrepreneurial thinking is what we are wanting as the best outcome. Now for that, the most important thing as faculty is we need to integrate the curriculum which the university gives us along with the skills that we want to impart and give them the resources that will merge and integrate all these things to inculcate the entrepreneurial mindset, which will then lead them to critically think and lead them to become successful. So how do we integrate curriculum, skills, and resources? Some of the pedagogical tools that I can think of, I mean, these are not all inclusive, but some of it which I can directly talk to you about is hold group discussions. I know that class becomes very noisy, but then I think having a group discussion, whether it's small or large, will actually help them to discuss and come out, and each group has to present. And you could even create where others can ask questions. Another thing is to have a role play. A role play definitely helps them as to why the worker is not doing this or why the entrepreneur wants this. Or for example, a role play about how the layout should be, etc. in the factory. Of course, a case study, and then most important in a case study is we all give case studies, but I think the more than the case study and the students working on these case study or problem as the case may be is the debrief that we come up with. I think the debrief should be very precise and it should really contain a whole lot of information that could be a takeaway for life. So please concentrate a little more on debriefing sessions. Of course, giving them the laboratory and asking them to experiment is by far the best way that students can be very creative. Giving them access to laboratory at all times is something very, very important. And of course, calling a discussion panel and guest, I think all of us do that. But I would like to concentrate a little more on games in the next slide. So I'll pass that and I'll come to others. Structured note-taking is something which our students never do, right? But I think it's very important that we also give them some good handouts which they can post the class read. I think that would help out because not many of them, though we should encourage them to take structured notes, I think that will really help when you are in a professional course. But then not many would unless, they are prompted with a lot of other resources. So perhaps giving them links, putting it in your website, what are the links and what are the handouts that you want to give, I think that would be also to go along with the structured note-taking. Accelerated learning is when you give a lot of pre-reads and ask them to prepare for the class and come, and ask them to present it so that then you can correct it. I think that is a newer way of learning where the students present what they want, and you can go on a fast track and you can actually correct them where they are wrong, and therefore you can learn faster. Of course, individual coaching is very hard to do, but where some of the students are very active and really require, I think, an individual coaching, 1 or 2 sessions would really help. And of course, a lot of question and answer sessions that can follow. It could be either oral, it could be in a form of a multimedia, or it could be in a form of a game where they press. I think that would be actually very interesting. And demonstrations, live demonstrations, models, etc. And using a lot of technology, media, video, having your own blogs, writing about your feelings about a particular issue in the technology or etc. Those sort of things. Your websites that where you can put in all these things, the books that you read, etc. These also can be very good pedagogical tools so that students can actually go to the website and see your PowerPoints, etc. Of course, how do you create structured learning opportunities for your students? Of course, is note-taking. Another thing, important thing is reviewing. I think we all do that, but I think we should do it in a more structured way, where in the next class we review what was taken in the last class, ask them a couple of questions. We do that, but consciously I think at least 5-10 minutes need to be devoted to that. And of course, brainstorming is where you throw an issue and ask them to come up with an answer. And also try and keep process logs. Train your students that they need to keep process logs wherein they log what are their learnings. Preferably try and do it in a social website so people know what they have progressed in. Also help your students to correct another person's work. So when they correct themselves, their work, or when they correct other person's work, exchange things. Of course, in schools we used to do it, but I think in college also it works wonders. When these are done and if you're giving it for a peer review, that's what we give all our academic articles, etc. I think peer reviewing, it will teach them very much. Then also take them through how did you complete the project and ask them to analyze, ask them to write up 10 points or just in 4, how did you complete this project? What were your challenges of the project? When you ask them to review what was this, I think that there's a lot of learning that happens, and what could you have done better to complete the project? Some sort of these questions, if you can ask them and ask them to just send it back to you on a mail, I think that would also give them time to reflect. Also encourage your participants to train and support one another, and team building is something very important. And we all know in colleges when project teams are made and there's always a crib that you put all the numbers together or all friends together, so and so is not working, etc. But I think it also tells them that this is exactly what happens in workspace, and you need to actually learn to support and help one another. So therefore team building exercises, team projects needs to be given. And I'd already talked about peer learning and blended learning, where we take all forms of learning together. I told you I would talk to you a little more about the games. There's some of the games that I have set which you can use, and of course there are many more. I'm very sure that many of you are much more good at this, and you could have created a number of games. Well, you could take a model and say what's wrong with this model. I don't know, just check out what are the wrong things. And everybody loves to point fingers, so I think that will be a big hit. You can also go and talk to them and say, okay, this is my friend who's there in the industry and this is the problem his factory is facing. How about giving us this answer? Or you could set some clues, and then the answers could be in the form of a treasure hunt or like a password. Each answer would open up another problem, and it could be like that on the computer. You can build prototypes, ask them to build prototypes and bring, and you can these things. You can ask them to come up with mad ideas, just ask them to run amok with mad ideas, and then see if you can change the mad idea to a good idea or something like that. You can ask quizzes. I think quizzes by far are very, very interesting. Ask them to make quizzes, and of course ask them to make short films or videos on, or take films on the working of some machine, or things, or how long is the breadth of the toll road or something like that. I think those type of work would also tell them an idea of how big the toll road is and how big, those sort of things. So these are some of the games that can be run, and fine, you're doing so much. At the end of it, if you have put e-thinking in your students, I'm very sure it will enable your students that if they become entrepreneurs, they'll know very well how to search for a problem, find an opportunity, and make them fit one very well and to one another. They will know how to evaluate the market, the industry, and the team, and see whether they all fit to take the enterprise up. They will know how to model their business, and they will learn to start small and how to grow big. On the other hand, if your students have already been enabled with e-thinking and decide to get placements and go to work, I'm very sure they'll get a lot of work, because they will know how to exactly approach and solve problems very, very innovatively and be very creative about how they solve the problem. So what's in it for you, my friends? What are the payoffs for us? Basically, I think it's a lot of personal recognition within the campus and as well as outside the campus. Of course, when you actually start when you start going out, you're taking your organization's name, so there's a lot of outreach that happens. So there's a lot of interface, academic industry interface that happens, and you could get a whole lot of consultancy opportunities that can come. And of course, your networking will pay, because everybody will say, oh, you're connected to so-and-so, can you connect me so much to so-and-so? So that networking will also be a very big success for you. And of course, income will grow, and there would be your personal growth. I think that is something which I have personally felt, that there will be an inner growth in you which nothing can else satisfy. And it's regeneration, because you learn to look at things very differently. And of course, it prepares you for a great retired life, like mine. Like now that I'm retired, I think I can look at it and say this. But when you look at colleges, I think there's a lot of payoffs for them. They get better placements and a lot of innovations, inventions leading to a lot more patents. Enhances their brand like crazy. It helps them to create more job creators and thereby contribute to the nation's wealth. And of course, for our dear students, there's always good jobs, more money, better recognition, and more importantly, it helps them to actually self-actualization and tell them exactly what do they want. Give them the confidence in them that yes, I can, because they know exactly how to weigh the problem and know how to solve the problem. So I think these are very big payoffs for all of us. But of course, it's full of challenges. I agree with you, right? Right from time. Okay, will I have time? Can I manage my classes? Oh, will my boss agree? Will the head of department agree? Will the college agree? Okay, so many students, how can I do it? You know, oh, my teaching hours are so much only. What do I do? Oh, it's eating into my personal life. And of course, this is the rule of the college. Now, these are all some of the common challenges that we will come across while we are doing a lot of these things. Well, I'm very sure by now you start practicing it, you will get an entrepreneurial mindset and you can creatively solve all these challenges. But let me give you some methods. For example, because if with your enhanced networking, I think you would be able to adjust your timetables with your friends. And also this will help you. Your networking would also help you, because if you want to miss a class, you can always, because of some work, you can adjust it with another friend, which we normally do. You could also call somebody from the industry and ask them to take the class, which will solve two things at one shot. Now, also please let us remember that if you do not spare some personal time for your personal growth, you don't have to do everything only within the official time. Please remember, no pain, no gain. So I think you have to consciously, and we have to consciously agree that the official time, beyond official time, is what we need to also invest in. And also we need to invest some of our own money to buy some resources, perhaps to pay some seminar fee which we need to attend, or buy some books. Not always look up to the authorities and say, hey, if they give me, I'll go. Consider it as an investment. More so often it is like, okay, my HOD has asked me to go, so therefore I'll go types. I think you should also look out for some seminars which is of interest to you in your mind and actually go for it. Read on it, read books on it. I think that helps you to keep your mind much more active. And most important, keep your boss posted on what you're doing. This way you're always open and transparent. But he or she may say, what's this, you're not spending time in college times, but it's always better to keep them informed with what's happening. And also showcase your work, and remember to share your roles with your head of department while presenting it to the top management. I think it plays a very, very important role, that you time and again showcase what's been happening to the top management along with your boss. Now, to do all this, I think we've got a whole basket of resources from NEN, right? And we have a lot of pedagogical tools. There are a lot of resources, a lot of training programs which are really hands-on, and they can give you strong experiential learning. I think that is actually another important thing which I forgot to put, is the experiential learning. It's very, very important that you actually start. That is why all these case studies, these projects, etc., are all experiential learning. And they can be easily implemented. And NEN has got a whole basket of these experiential learning exercises which we can actually implement it back in the campus. Also, as I said, when I said networking was very important, one of the biggest network that you can first launch on, is very comfortable, is to get into the faculty network of NEN. You go attend a thing and you start building your network there itself, and with other faculties of other colleges. And you know what, I think I remember in Delhi, we used to actually we kept a page where we could all go talk, and I think you can form a group. Now you can form a WhatsApp group, you can form a FB group, but whatever, I think that's the first way to start networking. And of course, they've got a whole lot of videos, online courses, case studies along with your teachings. And this could help you in your blended learning approach. So these are some of the tools and resources and publications. For example, for pedagogical tools, you can go to the NEN courseware compendium. You can have the educator's handbook. You have the instructional videos. And of course, there are a lot of publications on various topics, like how to form a campus company, what is a mentoring, how do you do it, handbook. Then you have the various faculty development courses. You have the student venture mentoring unit, how to build a student venture mentoring unit in your college, how to guide and build a high performance e-cell in your college. And of course, we have the NEN's white paper, which is on incubator. Now, if you're planning to put an incubator in your college, then you read this white paper and it will tell you exactly what are the ABCD of starting an incubator in your organization. Of course, there is a lot of development, personal faculty development courses like the foundation course, the advanced topic, high impact infra design, mentor development program. Many of you have been to it. Some of you have heard of them. I think you should really take them, and I think they are really, really good in helping you create a mindset in you, which you can easily translate to your students later on. Of course, one of the biggest things is our NEN online .tv, where we have a lot of online courses, and currently they're all free. So I think you should take up some of these courses. They are all small video capsules of 5 to 7 minutes, and you have multiple such capsules, and you can go through them at your own leisure. And once you clear all these capsules, you consider pass the course. You also, like, for example, you have identifying your business idea, test driving the idea, 5 stages of starting up, pricing it right, creating business online, raising funds for startups. We have so many, there are thousands of videos there, and I think if you could go through them, it would be really good. You have these online courses, and also you have these how-to there, that is just a 1-minute, 2-minute how-tos. Those are also very interesting. Well, at the end of the day, let me just summarize what exactly is inculcating entrepreneurial mindset. I'll summarize. I've been talking to you for a couple of minutes now, and I would put it down to the ABCD, EFG, HIJ. For example, I think if you think of an entrepreneurial mindset, the ability to initiate action, and that is timely. Are you an opportunist? Can you initiate at the right time the opportunity? In the right time, how can you cash in on the opportunity? Are you willing to bounce back, become resilient and persistent and say, okay, never say die, and again come back and say, hey, I will try. Can I do it this way now? Do you have that? Are you committed to create something new always? Are you committed to the cause that, yes, I will create something new? Are you demanding, I want this type, and it has to happen this way only, and it has to be a picture where you are demanding so much of quality? Can you enumerate what are the risks? Can you also calculate what could be the how affordable loss that we can have if we go in this way or that way? You are the person who forms a firm mental vision and say, and these are the goals and I need to achieve them. To do this, you start gathering information very avidly. You analyze it, monitor it, and you have high observance skills. You're very high on your confidence and less on your self-doubts. And you're very great at making independent judgments. Yes, you take the opinion of others, you do a lot of research, and then you sit on an independent judgment. And most important, you jumpstart a network or you avidly sit in a network. I think this, my friends, is the ABCD of entrepreneurial behavioral traits that you need to incorporate in you as well as in your students in order to gain success. Last but not the least, I would like to leave you with what Sri Abdul Kalam ji, my ideal, said. My message, especially to young people, is to have courage to think differently, courage to invent, to travel the unexplored path, courage to discover the impossible, and to conquer the problems and succeed. These are the great qualities that they must work towards. So I leave you with this thought, and I'm going to now go for some questions and answers.
Thank you so much, Radhika, for that wonderful session. Thank you all the attendees who participated. We are glad. Now I will go ahead with the questions. So the first question is from Nishti Dubey. She wants to entrepreneurship teaching should start in which semester and should continue for how long?
Well, entrepreneurship as a subject can be taught in any semester. Normally everybody prefers it in the last semester because it goes along with placements. But I personally prefer that entrepreneurship be taught at the earlier semester because it gives them time to practice what they have learned. So I personally would recommend entrepreneurship as a subject during the first or second semester when the enthusiasm is very high.
Okay. And the next question is from Chippy. How can we start entrepreneurial activities and on a newly started campus?
The first thing that you can do to start entrepreneurial activities in your campus is to create awareness of what is entrepreneurship, right? It's a new campus, so not everybody will be aware what is entrepreneurship all about. So I think forming an e-cell, getting the students to get entrepreneurs into your campus, having events. So these are some of set of activities which you can see in the NEN website also, that there are a set of activities which we do to build awareness. And then the second stage would be to engage them by having campus companies, etc. And the third stage is, of course, by having student mentoring platform, etc. So in a new campus, I think the first is to build awareness. And to build awareness, I think, and to fast track this to go the second phase of engage, I think we should do a whole lot of a plethora of programs that is related to building this awareness. For example, having video shows, showing movies, organizing events, panel discussions, calling the entrepreneurs, my story sessions, asking students to go and video their favorite entrepreneur and say, name 2 things. These are some of the ways that you can build interest in a newly developed campus.
Okay. Now, Professor Rama Vaidyanathan wants to talk. So I will go ahead and unmute her so that you can ask her questions. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, Professor Rama.
Hello, Rama.
Yeah, hi. So that was a very good program. So I am personally teaching a course in entrepreneurship, and it is at the 3rd semester right now. So I think I will definitely be able to use a lot of your suggestions.
Okay.
So do you also use activities like the 50 rupee exercise when you teach entrepreneurship?
Yeah, at a college level, using a 50 rupee exercises would be really good. And they would be having that in, I'd probably give it a 1 day more, just not a few hours. I think a day would be enough for them to come back with their answer. But I also think an entrepreneurial mailer, asking them to give a big plan for the mailer and all those sort of things also work much better.
Yeah, thanks, Radhika.
Thank you so much. And the next question is from Lakshmi Meera. Hello.
Yeah, Maksud?
Yeah. What skills trainings is required in college which can result in startups?
Okay. I think a whole lot of things, like basically the projects, that the students undertake for their various subjects. There would be I would call that as a potential basket from where startups can begin. So whether it's you're in the first, second or third or whatever be the semester, we do a whole lot of projects for each subject. And asking your students to actually bring some live projects and try and copy something from the industry, I think that would be the start to build ventures and startups in your own companies. And encouraging them and showcasing them, making them go to exhibitions, showing these projects in the exhibitions will also trigger them a feeling that, yeah, they're doing something good, and, getting that recognition. I think getting recognition for even a small project, or maybe send a letter to the parents applauding them for their child's project. It sounds silly that in college would we do it, but yes, I think that would play a whole lot of ways to encourage the students to think, yeah, I can do it. So why not? Or announcing it, putting it on the notice board. I think those are the things that can actually help. Getting recognition even for a small project will help them and spur them to build better products. I think that's one very big thing that each college can do.
Okay, the next question is from Srinivas Dharmula. He wants to know, can you elaborate on blended teaching?
Okay, blended teaching is something we all do, and but I think we now need to do it a little more consciously. There are some facts that, as a teacher, in those days when I used to teach, we never had even a PowerPoint, right? So everything was from our top of the mind. And at the most I used to write one chit in my hand and go or scribble some important words in my hand so that I don't have to refer. In fact, if I refer to something I was considered, I used to feel, gosh, I'm going to exhibit my ignorance. But over a period of time, what has happened, the way of teaching has changed. And with the information explosion that's happening, and you can do ullu mat banao types, right? So we need to be very conscious of the fact that there are only such amount of information as a faculty we can have. And there's a world of information or an ocean of information out there, but then all information cannot be translated into knowledge. And therefore, if you want to gain knowledge or master a particular aspect, we need to pick up information from various quarters. One from the teacher's mind, one from other people's mind, one through audio, one through video. And when you do all these things, you ask questions, you show movies, you so related, get people from the industry who are practicing. Now look at this, for the same concept, we are throwing in so many different methodologies, and therefore such a type of teaching is called blended learning. The student gets a bombardment from various, whether it's audio, visual, kinesthetic, do-it-yourself kit, all this, plus the students, the teacher's knowledge, everything is going, and this will help in what is called as blended learning. Thank you.
Now, Professor Srinivas Venkata Subramaniam has a question. He wants to, he has raised hand. I will give him audio access. Hello, Professor Venkate.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, you can go ahead with your question, sir.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Hello, Professor Venkat.
Hi, good evening, good afternoon. Is it Radhika Meenakshi?
Yes.
Hi, thank you so much. It was a wonderful presentation, and we have about 60 students along with them, myself and few faculty are listening. It's a wonderful presentation. I have two questions.
Okay.
The question one was, I already typed the message over there on the control panel that, do we really need any money for starting a company? If you can highlight some examples of some cases where, students have been successful with respect to campus company during their college days without spending much money. So what is the best way so that they can be an effective entrepreneur? That is the question one. Question two, raised by a student. He was asking, like, we got internship in the company, this do little program or project. Is there any company or any organization offers internship for entrepreneurship?
Okay.
You understand my question?
Yes, I do. I do, Professor Venkat.
Okay. Yeah,
The first
thank you
question
so much.
that you
Yeah.
had, okay. The first question that you had asked me is, are there any companies which have started without money? Do you really need a whole lot of money to start campus companies? Well, to tell you the truth, money does play an important role, but definitely at a student stage in campuses, the IEDC funding that the college can provide actually is one of the seed funds that we can think of. But more important, students, when they start a campus company, they definitely looking at some amount of seed money to start with. Now, when it is a student venture of their own, that's a different ball game. But when you're starting it as a campus company in the campus with the blessings of the management of the college, I think money should be, two ways. One is definitely that management would have to give you some amount of seed money to start. Second, the college can, the students can generate it with some competition, some interesting competition where students come up with some, pay some money to come up with solutions or something like that. Design a logo for this competition, something. One way is to raise small money through running competitions, by doing some, this is like a small way of bootstrapping. You do something else, raise money and put it into your campus. So that is what I'm trying to inculcate. Yes, there are a lot of companies. I can give you the example here. There are colleges which have actually done this. We set up a competition and we took 30 rupees for designing, and then we had a logo competition, and with the money that was collected, we used that money to actually start off a campus company. So I think there are ways in which you can do it. And this is all requires you to innovatively think. Remember, the willingness to be creative is the first step. The willingness that, yes, I have to start and be passionate that I want to start a campus company. I think that itself amongst the students will be more than enough. They will definitely find ways. Money would actually follow your idea. Believe me, you will find different ways of raising the same money, and the management could give you. But if it is a student venture on your own, you know, where as a student venture you want to start off with you and your friends, then of course the question of money becomes a little bit of a problem. The seed money is actually very, very new, and there are quite a few angels who offer seed money to students, and if we can tap on them, if your idea is fantastic. If you're just going to go in for a run-of-mill idea, which is just a replication of what's being done, I'm very sorry, I doubt if you'll be able to get seed money for that. The government itself is giving a whole lot of seed money. They've set aside some amount for high-tech funds. You could tap on that if it comes under the category of high-tech. Well, all you have to do is to look forward to seek angel seed investors, look at government, look at your own top management, are your thing to set up, who definitely set your alumni fund. All these are the people who can give you seed fundings to start. Seed fund is the money that you first require to start a business. You could also raise it by bootstrapping, as I told you, by conducting, if it is a campus company. I hope I've satisfied regarding the first question. Now, regarding the second question, are there companies which offer internship in entrepreneurship? Well, if you look at it, I wouldn't know whether you call it internship in entrepreneurship, but yes, if you look at the National Small Industries Corporation, NSIC, they run a program on entrepreneurship. As a part of the 6 months program, they set you up with, they first expose you to various companies, and suppose, let's say you pick up that you want to do something with, let's say, ice cream cone making, wafer making company, then they make you intern in a wafer making company and for 2-3 months so that you get to know everything. So that is a specifically oriented internship in the industry that you want to start. So that is one thing that I can think of is NSIC. And of course, there is the Internship Wala and all those other new Google sites, new sites, websites which can offer you internship. And of course, I think NEN also offers a whole lot of internship for entrepreneurship activities. Thank you, and I hope I have answered your questions.
And we have another question. It says, how can we sustain interest in students?
If I knew that answer, I think we'd all be somewhere, won't we? Sustaining the interest of students is something that, maybe you will get a Nobel Prize for it or something if you do find the answer. It's very elusive. But yes, I think while we inculcate entrepreneurial mindset, the things that I told you, getting the student curious, getting the students to forcefully think on their feet, and asking the student to participate and not making it a monologue. So all the time, if it is on a 55 minutes, I think 10 to 15 minutes should be your voice. The rest of the time you should throw back the ball at them and say, hey, what do you think of it? Have you done this? Do you think this? Lead them to find the answers themselves. So this will also help them. And the next time, you tell them, you also just casually tell them, next class I'm going to discuss this or something like that. And I'm very sure there'll be 1 or 2 guys who definitely learn or read about it and come. So by using them, I think you should leverage on that and get the students to participate. I think that's one biggest way to engage is to keep them engaged in the class. Keeping them engaged involves that you keep asking them questions, you keep asking them to come up with their experience, and even suddenly out of the blue to be more creative, ask them about what are their personal interests and see if you can jodify it with the principal. Ask him what's your favorite thing, hobby, or what do you like, what is your interest in, and say, can you link it to this principal, out of the blue. And they'll be for mocks, and then they'll try to think, and then they start thinking creatively, how can this principal work on this idea? So, it may be mad, it may be outrageous, it may be incongruous, but yeah, it would definitely keep them engaged. I think you can afford to spend some time on this out of, your jam-packed curriculum teaching hours. I think we should devote some time. We can definitely go through the portions, and we need to keep some time for creativity. And consciously develop that. Out of, let's say, your 3 classes in a week, 1 class you devoted one-time class or even half a time class, spread over these 3 classes. Definitely would help. Yes, please.
Yeah. So the next question is, how do we discuss it sound behavior, but when we practice it sound financially only? Please justify.
No, I didn't understand.
Okay. It says when we discuss it sounds behavioral, but when we practice it sounds financial only. Please justify. Okay.
So she says it's all nice to talk,
Yeah.
but when it comes to actually doing it, it's money honey, isn't it? Isn't that what the question is?
Yes.
I wouldn't say that all is money, right? Some of the things that we can do in class discussions, throw in a video or do these, I don't think it's all money, right? There are so many things that you can do, download for free and show, right? At the most, what would involve money is basically you calling somebody from the industry and coming to your college. Normally, these people don't ask you money to come and share their story. Their transportation is what you have to give. And not necessarily that you have to make it a big pomp and show. Yes, I agree. Some of this will boil down to money, and I'm so sure most of the colleges have set aside small amounts. It's only when you ask for big amounts, then you can look for sponsors. But when it's smaller amounts, every college always sets aside a certain amount from their account. You can definitely ask from the departmental funds, one samosa or tea. I think small things. And even if you can't give it, you don't have to feel bad. Most of the people who come to college know that colleges are, not all colleges are, typically universities and all that are always a little cash trap. So I think you can don't stop feeling bad, and you can boldly say, it's a prestige to come to our college, and it's good that you're having so many eyes on you. I think you're giving in a lot more to these guests when they come. They get a lot of exposure, and so many people asking. That gives them a big high rather than the 500 rupees that you're giving. So don't feel bad. You don't have to give them money. You can actually, other ways to actually promote them. Yes, I do agree that everything is down to money, and you need to work within the constraints of money. But there are also a lot of things that you can do without money, and if your entrepreneurial mindset allows that, do think of those ways. Thank you.
Okay, the next question is from Professor Sharda. What are the modalities in ESOPs for startups?
So we're looking at employee stakes out here. I think there's a whole lot of ballgame altogether. This is startups in colleges. We need to actually develop a policy as to how much the student can take, how much the college can take, and how much the faculty can take. The sharing of the patents, the sharing of the stakes, I think they all play a very important role. And this is actually very technical, and we need to actually take it offline. I think we can, at NEN, we can be able to help you. If you can raise your questions, we'll take it offline. We have a systematic way of doing this.
Okay, now Professor Neha wants to speak. She has raised hand. I will give her audio access. Professor Neha? Professor Neha? Maybe Professor Neha is not able to hear. I will give access to Anil, Professor Anil. Professor Anil? Hello? Okay, the line has dropped. So the last question for the day is, what are the programs which can conduct in our ED cell?
If you see that NEN has already got a handbook on how to enhance your and build a strong entrepreneurship cell, I think getting that handbook will tell you exactly what are the various activities that can actually strengthen your e-cell. But I think forming a e-page, forming team building exercises, getting the e-cell members to come together for an outing and doing some activities, specific activities during holidays when all can come in spite of class, since there are no classes. Would be some of the ways in which you can actually build in the team spirit in your e-cell. Getting into certain, definite activities, I think is, of course, the various things. But most important, I think, is the best learning that can come from is from a campus company. So start off them by asking them to organize the events themselves. Give them some, start trying to make them independent. Ask them to frame letters to invite people, and then you correct them, because that will help them to understand how to write these letters, business communications. Start asking them to do things themselves. Organize the event. Get to me only when there is trouble. So those sort of things will actually give them a lot of practice. I think the handbook of NEN would be very useful to you. I suggest you go through them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we have one more question. Any difference in setting the mindset of management and engineering campuses? The difference between...
So most of the things that I talked of was pertaining a lot to engineering colleges only. I think doing a project, for example, if you're in civil engineering, you could probably give some project on build a newspaper bridge on with the newspaper, or ask them to do some layout, fixing up the layout, what would be the best way for the work to be carried, divide the work into tasks and ask them to put the task one after the other, arranging the work in tasks. These are some of the things that you can ask the students to do. For example, of course, if you are in electrical, you ask your students to actually start using solar energy on one part of the room, make corridors, one corridor of lights light up with solar energy. Those are the things that we can actually ask them to practice in the college itself. I think that is a place that we need to start, and in engineering colleges is so amazing, because you can ask them to do everything in the college itself. You want to start automating the doorbell or putting the mic wires, please ask the students to do it. I'm very sure that they would come up with a much more innovative and cheaper way of doing it. Yeah, I think those are the ways that you can actually inculcate entrepreneurship in campuses, is by asking the students to do it themselves in the college. Ask them to practice it in college. Drip irrigation, I've seen in many colleges where the students have then laid out the drip irrigation and, recycling. And those are the things, the automatic water switch, controlling, better energy control meter. These are, I think, things that the students can themselves do as a part of projects in engineering campuses. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. And Professor Neha is again raised hand. She needs audio access. So Professor Neha? Hello? Professor Neha? Okay, she is not able to hear. Okay, our next question is from Venkateshwar Reddy. What type of ideas we have to select for students?
What type of ideas do we need to select for students? For what? Professor Reddy, may I know for what? Is it for entrepreneurship, or is it for your projects? Is it for, on what is the basis on which this question is being raised? May I know it? The context? I think that would help me answer you.
Okay. So Dr. Satyadhar, he says that for projects.
Okay. When you're looking at IEDC projects, for which, you get the funds from the government to fund these projects, you may have a plethora of ideas among students, but I think getting the ideas explored from the industry, asking outsiders from college other than faculty, the industries. There are MT like TAI, NEN, there are so many institutes, BYST, there are a whole lot. You can actually ask these people to look at these ideas. You can ask some technical people to review these ideas. I think that would be actually a better way to evaluate these ideas in selection of these ideas. And the industry marks would definitely give you a better idea as to what will go in the industry. And therefore, I suggest the best way to evaluate ideas is to give it back to the industry and ask them for their opinion. And the second weightage that you should give is to the student's interest. Is he willing or is she willing to amend the idea or is flexible enough to look at the idea in a different way? And third, but whether it is within our college wherewithal to actually get through this idea. But that should be a least weightage. I think the big weightage should be for the industry. I think these are some of the ways you can evaluate ideas and select them for the project. Looking at whether you have college mentors, yeah, that also is one of the very important things. Or whether you can link them to industry mentors. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. There is one raised hand from Dr. Satyendra. So I will just go ahead and unmute. Dr. Satyendra?
Hi, hello.
Yes, sir. You can go ahead and ask the question, sir.
Yeah, madam, good afternoon. Actually, I'm representing Lovely Professional University, taking charge of the student entrepreneurship cell. Now, we are a university which is very big in terms of the student numbers and in terms of infrastructure. There are a lot of things which we can do. But now, the single problem which I am facing is, that the students need to be framed, and then we need to. Because in the engineering students, they have a knack in technology. Management students, they have a knack into management, but everybody is coming for a common thing. Yes, they want a startup. I'm focusing more on those startups and rather arranging all these things. I took help of NEN as well as TAI. Now, I was also executive director of TAI a couple of years back, but this thing is not working out here. So, can you suggest something more which can be done?
Sir, actually your voice was getting a little electrocuted. So as I understand, the question is that in your Instil, you're having a lot of MBA students as well as engineering students?
Yes.
And though you took a lot of help from outside like TAI and NEN, what
yes.
are you not able to do is to make the EE company stronger? That part of it I couldn't.
Yeah, I actually want to launch something. I want to put them into, give them an exposure, proper exposure, where people can sit together with the VCs. Because students are interested only in getting the funding because they have ideas. Definitely they have ideas, but they need a funding. So VCs, I already have a VC panel for that. But how the students actually need to come out from the couch thinking about like what we have to do. We have to come out from that placement couch and get into self-enterprise thing. That is what is required.
Yeah. So you're saying that is you need to change your students' mindset from only looking at placement, but also look at entrepreneurship, and that's where you're having difficulties in conversion.
Yes, madam. And what that is exactly, and how do I do it? There are ways which I could do it. Either I do it through EAC, I collaborate with some other guys, they come and talk. But even then, the things are not as per my nose, with what I want that it should move on. Suggest some innovative ways so that the students actually take up the things.
Well, this I think is a problem that everybody is grappling with, Professor. The conversion rate of students to actually becoming entrepreneurship is actually a worrisome, very minuscule amount. Most of them are very attracted with placements, right? And we can't blame them also, because some of the students also feel that they'll get placements, they'll work for 2-3 years, and then they will start their entrepreneurship. So I think when you start fixing up your targets for conversion, please scale it down a bit so that you don't get disappointed. I think we have to accept certain facts that all students at the rate, it would be wonderful if they all convert to become entrepreneurs, or even 50% of the students convert into entrepreneurship. Currently it's 1% or 2%. right? So, there are only small ways, and this has to be built up over a long time. It cannot happen suddenly. This has to be done with a series, and I think you're moving in the right direction. All your tie-ups and all these things with various things, and the fact that you're doing a wonderful job is actually helping. You may not realize it, but you're already slowly putting the roads to that, creating entrepreneurs in your campus. I think you're doing a good job on that. And more and more what you have to do is probably reiterating the same thing over and over again. And also expose them and never lose heart. Arey, main itna kiya, फिर भी nothing happened. Don't lose heart. I think that's where we stop. One is being very, very consistent and being very, bounce back and say, okay, this time I gave 5 industry talks, next I'll give 10 industry talks. Let me see what I do. Don't lose heart. I think that's one of the things. You're doing a whole lot. I think we can probably include a lot of entrepreneurship failure stories. I think there's a very interesting mela you can have as a startup failure mela, which happened recently in Hyderabad. I think that would be actually very useful. Maybe you can show some videos of startup failures where they are actually know what's going to go wrong and therefore, try and avoid it. Maybe, as you say, it may put them off, but it can also trigger them to say, okay, if this person can do a challenge and today they are so successful, I'm so sure we can also do something. I think those sort of motivating videos and calling people who have failed and then succeeded to come and have a talk, especially focused on that, challenges and people who have challenged themselves, showing videos of people who have challenged beyond their means, not only on entrepreneurship, but climbed mountains, lame but has swam the English Channel. Those sort of motivational things can also inspire a whole lot of, I can do it. So I think that's about all. You can do a little more, but you are going in the right direction, and it's very, very small steps. I know it's very discouraging. Sometimes you feel like, my God, I did so much, and look at the end of it, only so much happened. I know it is very discouraging. I know what you're going through, and I'm so sure many of us as faculties are also going through this, and we can empathize with you and sympathize with you. But I think we have to move along nevertheless, because the goal that has to be reached is very laudable. And I think if we do even put one on the floor as entrepreneur, I think we're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Madam, one more question. Last. Yeah. Hello.
Yes, sir. You can.
Hello. Yeah, one second. Last question of mine. Radhika, I've already started some startups here at my university. We have 6 in numbers, and we have incubated around 14-15 businesses at our place.
Wow.
And this is what. And if at all, if it is like that, what do you suggest for these startups? How to sustain them?
Sustaining the startups, student venture startups in your incubator. Is that your question?
Yes. Right.
I think the most important thing here, Professor, is to give them as many linkages as possible. Also, send them to as many exhibitions, etc., for them to go showcase. I think you need to build awareness about these startups in your incubator. I think that would be the first step for you to actually, people to become aware. And also use your top management and ask them for help, but it's usually top management driven. So ask them for some contacts. And also, if you can actually, if your university is very big, I'm so sure there'll be a whole lot of faculties who would be somewhere or the other networked to the line that these students are working in. I think you need to tap in all that. You can ask these students to actually go and tap in a couple of faculties who will have this network and leverage on those networks. You have a whole lot of faculties in your university, leverage on each of these faculties network. Try and, spot out the faculty who's got a network there. I think it's a huge task, but yes, it would help in the long run that you keep a data of these things. I think that would be one way to actually bring in a lot of awareness for your startups. And of course, put them on to many of the B-plan competitions. This is a run-of-the-mill. I think that also gets in a bit of money here and there to help them out. But I think at the end of the day, it is the way they generate money to sustain themselves through their sales. So make sure that their revenue model is very strong. And if you find that it is not doing well, then ask them to revisit their value proposition to see exactly why the revenue is not coming the way they thought. I think revisiting and recreating your prototype or re-engineering your prototype would probably fit you a little bit more better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Radhika. Thank you
So much. Thank you very much, Radhika, for this interesting session and the Q&A session. Thank you all our attendees for participating in the webinar. We are glad that the questions kept coming in, but due to lack of time, we are unable to answer them all. Please do send in your feedback to the link which is shared. Also, if you have found the session interesting, feel free to blog and post about it. The recorded version of the webinar will be available on www.youtube.com/users/eClubNEN online by Saturday. We will share the details of the next webinar very soon over the mail. Please send us the list of participants attended the webinar at maqsood@nenglobal.org. Thank you once again and have a very nice evening. Thank you, Radhika.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.